What's up, YouTube world? K.I.N here. We're going to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online. And I debated whether I wanted to make a video about the game because it's been done so many times, but I have great concern about the game. And my concern is it doesn't really function like an MMO in sense of classes. And what I mean by that is, you know, you have your MMO and you have your designated classes, which I would have loved to have seen a actual class for the bowmen, really. I don't really see one. So, just throwing it out there, you know, Bethesda, Xenix, get to that. But, it doesn't really, you can play as anything, with anyone, and do any profession at any time. So why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because that's not how class system really works, in my opinion. And I understand, you know, there's people who say, well, you know, some classes can do this better, some classes can do that better. I get that. But what I mean by it is, let's take my Templar. I have a healing Templar, right? He's not really anything great. He's only level 20 right now, but I have a healing Templar. And I could tank as a Templar, or I could DPS as a Templar, or I can just be like, I'm a heal as a Templar, which is what I do. So I could theoretically ignore the crafting section and probably max out all my skill trees for my stuff, you know? And therefore, I don't really ever have to make a new character unless I want to see new visuals, essentially is what it is. Because why would I need to make a DPS character when I have a DPS character? Why would I need to make another tank when I have a tank? And why would I need to make a healer if I have the healer, you know? So, it essentially fills out all the roles. The problem with this is that there's really no specific thing anybody does. Like, you can broad categorize as DPS, healing, and tanking, but to do that, you gotta go through a lot of stuff to do it. Like, I know for tanking, you want some of the undaunting, you know, the undaunting skill line moves. But the thing is, what if I don't want to do undaunting? You're basically shoving this down my throat like, hey, if you really want to be a tank and be effective as a tank, you're going to have to follow this quest line and learn these, well, it's not really a quest line, but you have to learn these skills, get to these skills, pick them, put them in your bar, alright? It's not like there was a class, like, really specific. I mean, I understand, like, the Dragon Knight, you can sit there and there's a class that will give you more defense and stuff like that, but there's really no aggro generation from the class. It keeps you alive, but I feel like there's really no aggro generation from it, you know? And this kind of goes along with the healing class. Everybody seems to have a way to keep themselves alive, be it if you go down the undaunting tree, which is like right when you start the game, and you get the blood well, that's 40%. A lot of people can just fight with the Restro Staff and then do, you know, healing springs and stuff like that. And granted, that is not great, okay? But if everybody happens to have blood wells and Restro Staffs in the dungeon, they could probably keep themselves alive for a fair amount of time. And my main concern is the fact that I feel healing in this game, or the healer class in the game, isn't as critical as it is in other MMOs. And the reason why I said this is because I played a lot of World of Warcraft, and I was a healer. I was a priest, alright? And I remember watching, you know, health bars, you know, go down, and it was up to me and maybe one and an off healer to keep everybody alive. But everybody's health was dropping dramatically, constantly, so we had to know what heal to use, when to use it, and who to use it on, and be prepared to do it. But this game, everybody's health drops so slowly in dungeons, it's just boring as heck. It's like, I did an experiment, right? I did a test last night. It was me and three of my friends who went to a dungeon. Level 35 dungeon. At the time, my healer was only level 19. This means that I had 16 levels behind the group leader, okay? That means I'm 16 levels behind the dungeon. Right? Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but in Elder Scrolls, that's 16 skill points just from leveling. That is whatever amount of sky shards I could have found during the time of leveling, and whatever quest I would have done that might have given me skill points. So, we'll just ballpark and say 20. Right? It will say 20 skill points behind, and that's also like I could have morphed some abilities for better effects and stuff like that, but it's really big in Elder Scrolls, right? But I was able to keep these people alive at a 15 level gap. Well, 16. I hit 20 during the dungeon, but 16 level gap. I was able to keep everybody alive. I feel that should not be a thing. I really feel for an MMO, not just MMO, but for anything, if you're going to put so much emphasis on these levels, to have a 15, 16 level gap and still heal people effectively. The only time we ever died, we died once per boss, because we didn't know the boss's moves or mechanics and how they operated. But then after that, it was just the easiest fight to do. All right. There was 2 bosses where I purposely died at the beginning to see if they can survive. And sure enough, maybe the bowman. No, not the bowman. Who was playing me? Dark Knight. I forgot who was playing me. But I think there was one other person. Random. Anyways, one person would typically drop, but there would still be 2 more, and they would kill the boss. So it really hit me hard. Like, is the healer class really that serious? Because I feel like we're only really there for the times that they themselves cannot heal themselves and stay effective. I feel like we're really there for like that burst hit that just catches people off guard. All right, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying this is the absolute, but I have been paying attention to what I've had to do in healing, and it's roughly nothing. I literally start off giving everybody the 20% health regen buff. Then I go on and give them regen. And then I would use just healing springs to keep them alive. And then if somebody took a hit they weren't supposed to hit, I'll pop, freaking, I forgot the move right off the top of my head, rebirth or something like that, and do a big heal. And literally I just rinse and repeat in that fashion. And if the group took a damage, or if I'm too far out of range, I just use my ultimate and heal. And it'll just keep everybody alive, because that ultimate is really overpowered to begin with. So, but I never dip low. I never dip below 50% of my mana. Now, granted, I do have 30% back from heavy attacks, and if I heal somebody under 50%, I do get 15% of my mana back. But like I said, they weren't being damaged fast enough. Like, I literally would wait to heal them under 50% just because the move says, like, I can get mana back. But it was never really required for me to do it. I never once ran out of mana. Never dipped below 50%. So it really just makes me wonder, again, how important is the healer? Because I know when I played in World of Warcraft and stuff like that, my mana bar would be depleted. It'd be gone halfway through a fight sometimes, because just shit goes down that way. And then another thing people like the game that I look at is it's designed for 4 people, but I've been through it plenty of times with just me and 2 other people. It's not really designed. It doesn't really matter about 4 people. All right, and again, this is me going into higher level dungeons and just healing like two Dragonites. It doesn't really matter about the levels, the level system, the dungeon system. It just doesn't matter. Like, I feel this, like I feel a sense of unaccomplishment going through these dungeons. They don't provide a challenge. They don't do anything. All the healing moves are AoE, so there's really no targeting. There's really no nothing to keep people alive, and it really downs the gameplay value for me as a healer as to what can and cannot, like what matters and what does not matter. Because, you can res people in the middle of a fight. If you vomit, people fight. You can res people in the middle of a fight, even a boss fight. But that shouldn't be, that's not how, like, the mechanics I'm used to aren't really like that. I feel like this is just easy mode. It's like, okay, we want a game that people can play, that's an MMO, and they don't really have to grind for nothing, and they don't really have to worry about their moves, because everybody has a great way to stay alive, and everybody has their own healing, and everybody can take the same skill tree and get the same buffs, and do all all the skills, and that's not how it should work. There's no diversity in that point. There's really nothing, because eventually everybody, if they play the game long enough, is going to do everything. They're going to have max professions. They're going to have all the skill points they need. They're going to have all their skill trees done. And then you just have people like, well, what do you need? Oh, I need a healer. Okay, well, I'll just switch my spec to a healer. Okay, and then you DPS. What do you want? Do you want DPS? Do you want tank? What do you want to do? Okay, you could tank, and then, all right, so James, you switch your tank, go to DPS. Like, that's how it's going to be. And it really shouldn't feel like that. One character should not be filling out everything possible. You know, and I told my friend that. I said, listen, when you make a character, take 2 professions, take 1 profession. Don't take everything. Don't take everything. Because then you're not going to have a reason to make that other character. So this is also going into the fact of replay value. Like, when I played World of Warcraft, my first character was Cotton Panties, Warlock. I couldn't heal. And then people were like, well, we need a healer. So I was like, you know what, I'll make a healer for the group. So I made a new character, leveled it up, got a healer. And then my brother was like, oh, you should try tanking. So I made a new character and done tanking. But if this was in Elder Scrolls, I wouldn't have done nothing. I would have just been like skill point, skill point, skill point, skill point. I can tank, I can heal, I can DPS. What are you going to do? I don't need to make a new character. And, you know, it just really, it's not really the MMO experience that... I stopped playing World of Warcraft because it got too casual. And I'm worried that a lot of MMO games are going to follow this staple and just become casual. And when the reality of the fact is MMOs are not casual games. You know, they're not for you to play twice a week and think you're just going to be the shit. And excuse my language, that's not how they're designed. They're designed for people who are going to take the time to do the quests, to hunt the gear, okay, to level up, to understand the mechanics, to understand how to allocate skill points appropriately, okay? That's what an MMO is to me. It's not one character, easy level, could do anything, can be anything, and can fill any role. It's not what it's about. But this is just real talk, you know, Real Talk Sundays. And this is just K.I.N. And as always, guys, keep it nerdy.